In this time, things are so mischaracterized, I think it's confusing. I mean, there's all this talk about the economic crisis, and it amazes me, the more conservative or pro-capitalist the news channels are, the faster they believe this is just a blip in the road. What we need is an economic stimulus and we'll get things going again. But I think if we have a serious analysis of what's been happening, it hasn't just been a recession for the last year. For most of middle class and working class America, it's been a recession actually for a couple decades now. And what I mean by that is it used to be in the 1970s, the average savings rate for a middle class family was 10%. Before the recession, in 2005, the savings rate was -1. What I'm trying to lay out is that for the last 20, 30 years, we've had a trickle-down economy. Now the GDP's been growing oftentimes, and so the economy is doing well, but middle-class, working-class families have been going in greater and greater debt. They've had to wipe out their savings. Credit card debt is at record levels. Bankruptcy was at record levels, and this was all 2005. This is before the recession, when the economy was good. Bankruptcy, record levels. Credit card debt, record levels. And so the picture I'm trying to portray is that as there was a great civil rights revolution and African Americans and people of color got full civil rights in the late 1960s, we see the economy changing, where the economy is no longer one that is helping develop a broad middle class economy. What it is doing is it's concentrating wealth in the richest of Americans. And I really believe this is the basis of the slowness of reaching equality, because we put some civil rights laws on the books, but our economy has been transformed into one that no longer sustains a growth in a middle class economy. And so I believe we are at a time, it is a great economic crisis, but in a crisis there's also opportunity, right? And we hear a lot, hundreds of billions of dollars are going here, hundreds of billions of dollars are going there. And a big critique of what's been happening so far is that we've had a bailout, which I believe has been a trickle-down bailout. There's all this talk about, we have to get the economy going again, so let's invest hundreds of billions of dollars in the institutions of Wall Street that got us in this mess, and then we'll solve the problem. Because if Wall Street's going well, then America's doing well. It completely ignores the history that for the last 20 years, Wall Street was doing quite well. But middle class, working class America wasn't doing well, and since people of color are disproportionately in lower income areas, they have not been able to make up some of that ground. I want to highlight, because I don't want to get into specifics, but I left this report 40 years later, The Unrealized American Dream, that kind of gives some details of black-white inequality, because it really is amazing to me if you look at the increasing segregation of schools, the fact that, as we mentioned, African Americans make about 57 cents on every dollar that white Americans make. People of color only have 15 cents on the dollar of wealth. How could you ever seriously talk about the dream has been realized? I mean, either you don't understand what Dr. King's dream was, or you don't understand what the current racial division is today, and most likely it's probably both. You probably don't have a clear understanding that most of King's speech was talking about inequality at that day, and that the need of advancing, particularly an economic agenda, that would actually make the dream realized. So I just want to highlight this report. I want to highlight Ahmad's State of the Dream 2009. We don't have copies here, but if you go to faireconomy.org, you can get a more broad analysis of blacks and Latinos and what direction this recession, and I think it's quite obvious what this recession/depression is going to do for these communities. Again, people don't see, it amazes me that you could have a 2-year presidential election and it never be brought up. Isn't it a crisis that a third of black children are living in poverty? I mean, to me, that's the crisis. That it's not even brought up. It's not even worthy of discussion. And now they're projecting it could be 40 to 45% of black children living in poverty in a year. And that, it really saddens me. I've heard some people say, well, Barack Obama, he was running for office, and and he couldn't bring those up because it would divide the country. And I was like, well, shouldn't we be sad about that? that we can't talk about the racial inequality that's happening in this country today? Basically, I'm just going to give that. The basic outline of solutions, again, is yes, I'm very excited that for the first time in quite a while, we can talk about massive government intervention in the economy. We can talk about massive government investment in the economy. There's different trillion-dollar plans about every 4 months now. But when are we going to have the trillion-dollar plan. And how many trillions are we going to spend on trickle-down economics? When are we going to start giving trillion-dollar investment into the working class, the middle class? Start healing the wounds that have developed, not just under the Bush years, though it was quite easily seen in the Bush years, but happened in the Clinton years, happened in the Bush senior, happened under Ronald Reagan. When are we going to create, healthcare as one of the major reasons for bankruptcy? When are we going to deal with it? It's not just lack of insurance, it's being underinsured. When are we going to create, everybody wants to slam the car industry, and that's a problem, but what new industry are we going to create that's going to help working class people have living wages? People talk about investing in a green economy. That's very important. I really believe this thing that's not talked about, asset development. There are programs, and other countries are actually talking about the government giving matching funds. It's kind of like a national 401k plan that's guaranteed, that helps working class, poor people develop savings, because our economy has been based so much on debt. It's amazing to me, even during a recession, Bush would say, we just need to, and even on CNBC, we just need to spend our way out of it. What can we do to get people back in the stores? That's the problem. We don't need people just to have more credit card debt and buying. We need to figure out what can we do to get money back in American people's pockets. I'm just kind of laying out a broad idea that we need to figure out how to do hundreds of billions of dollars investment into middle class, working class people, have some specific solutions in this report, and we can talk about it. But I think we've laid out a good overview of the problem. I'd love to kind of get questions and responses from you all. So thank you for my little time, and now let's do some question and answer.